So we already have, Paolo have already mentioned a little what's going on or how we can develop testing standards. But as you can see, we are still working with finding a good method and how we can kind of standardize the method. And where things are going on now related to this, that is in an ISO TC 146, Subcommittee 6, Working Group 25, looking at measurement of perceived air quality. And then also mentioned by Paolo in ISO TC 142, Working Group 8, we have a preliminary work item on testing of gas phase air cleaners for improving perceived air quality. There is already standards for measuring perceived air quality. Here you see on the right with this funnel where they're testing emission from building materials. So now there has been a draft international standard which has been out for comments. We are now working on the comments. And basically the setup is on the left-hand side where you have a test room for standalone air cleaners where you take out the air and subjects is then through this funnel evaluating the air quality. You could also have a ducting where the air is going through the air cleaner or recirculate through the air cleaner in the ducts. So this is one setup, but we ask also to have a setup where you now have people coming into the space and evaluate. We saw from the results that both methods follow the same trend when you looked at it. Higher level of sources, stronger results, stronger voting. But we saw that it seems like most influence you would get when you had the full body. But both methods are intended to be included in the standard. And we are using these two scale, acceptability, and the other one for intensity. Now, we have a small ad hoc group in ISO TC 142, Working Group 8, who are looking at the results from DTU and should start developing the concept for the standard, how we do the setup now with the air cleaners. It's a preliminary work item. We hope to be, let's say, activating it in September next year. And then also what we are planning on that the test methods that we are now using at DTU, as you heard, we are just running a new series of tests at the moment, that two other universities are going to try the test methods also. We will have an end report from Annex 78 by the June 2024. So hopefully the standardization can actively start sometimes next year based on these studies. So the standards which are going to use the results is the international standards for ventilation, where we have an EN, we have an ISO, there's also ASWE. And the required ventilation, they are mainly based on perceived air quality. But sometimes it's also expressed as a level of CO2. So if air cleaning is used and you want to describe the level of quality or how much you ventilate per person, or you want to use CO2 as a tracer for ventilation, then an equivalent level of air quality will be reached at a higher CO2 concentration. So for example, your set point on your demand control should be another level than without the air cleaner. What is also assumed in some of the standards, that is, if you ventilate for perceived air quality, the required ventilation will also dilute other substances like radon and VOCs. But of course, if you now lower the ventilation rate because of the air cleaner, which do not work on radon, you may have to check if you still have enough outdoor air for diluting radon. I'll just skip this. So the issues with the testing is, for example, if we now only had a test method using chemical measurement, as in the standard described by Paulo, would we then, and they show a clean air delivery rate, would we then allow to change the building part? You know, there was a people part and a building part to find out how much you should ventilate. And the building part is mainly emissions from buildings like VOCs and so. That's a question mark, because even you could have, we have seen from the results that even if you don't have people as a source, the air cleaner may make it worse. So that's a big question mark, but we are discussing that. One thing here is also how to standardize the building source. We heard that you had to be careful with the people you select as source, that they're following some rules and guidelines. So that's one question we are looking at. You can also say, what if the human source is Chinese persons and testing panel is Danish? Will that give different results? Well, one thing that's important here is everything we do is a relative measurement. We compare with or without air cleaner. So some of these issues will disappear because we're talking about a relative measurement. So that basically ends our presentation.